Hello boys and girls, let's learn how to write capital letters in cursive. Capital A starts at 2 on the clock, just below the top line. You go up and around the clock face, down to the baseline, back up to 2, straight down to the baseline, finishing with a tiny upswing. Cursive capital A is very similar to lowercase a in cursive. The difference is the lowercase a is the height of the midpoint. The midpoint is the imaginary line between the top line and the baseline. Cursive B. Cursive B is very similar to manuscript capital B. The only difference is you pull straight down, retrace back up and around a second time, and then you do a short upswing. It's a tiny upswing, okay? Lowercase b, let's review it. Tall upswing, pull back to form a narrow loop, short upswing to the midpoint, pull in, finish with a free hanging dip. Cursive C. Capital C starts at 2 on the clock. Capital C looks really similar to manuscript C. Cursive C. There's cursive lowercase c. Cursive D. You start just below the top line. You pull straight down to the baseline, retrace up. You pull up and around the clock face. Once you get to the baseline, you do a curve to the original line, finishing with a tiny upswing, or you can have D not connect. Lowercase cursive d starts at 2 on the clock at the midpoint. Cursive capital E. Lowercase cursive e to review. E and F are our first cursive letters that look quite different than the manuscript form. F actually is going to look really similar to cursive T. The difference is F has a flag. Cursive F starts with a swoop just below the top line that pulls straight down to the baseline. You then curve up and around the clock face. You get to the midpoint and draw a horizontal line in the direction we read and write that crosses the original line. You finish with a tiny flag. F, flag. Let's review lowercase f in cursive. Tall upswing, narrow loop, pull straight down below the baseline, pull forward to form a narrow loop that touches at the baseline, tiny upswing. Cursive G. Tall upswing, narrow loop that turns into a scoop. Pull straight down to the baseline, curving in and back to the original upswing. Retrace that line, finishing with a tiny upswing. Cursive G in lowercase. Let's review. 2 on the clock, straight down, pull forward to form a narrow loop that crosses at the baseline. Cursive H. You do lift your pencil when forming cursive H. Vertical line straight down, just below the top line is where you start. Lift. Vertical line straight down. This time, you're going to retrace that line back up, and once you get just below the midpoint, you pull in to form a narrow horizontal loop at the midpoint that finishes with a free hanging dip. Let's review lowercase cursive h. Tall upswing, retrace back up to midpoint, finish with a tiny upswing. Cursive I. Cursive I is a reverse tall upswing. So you start at the baseline and you're going to draw a tall upswing in reverse. You pull straight down to the baseline, curve around to the midpoint. Once at the midpoint, draw a horizontal line in the direction we read and write. That's cursive I. Lowercase I. Cursive J is similar to cursive I with the reversed tall upswing. Reverse tall upswing, pull straight down, past the baseline, pull forward to form a narrow or skinny loop that touches at the baseline, finishing with a tiny upswing. Cursive J, short upswing, straight down, pull forward to form a narrow loop that crosses at the baseline, finishing with a tiny upswing. Notice that the capital J's narrow loop is the same length as the short lowercase j narrow loop. It's the same length. Cursive K, capital K. We do lift our pencil for capital K. Starting just below the top line, pull straight down to the baseline, lift, pull in, curve out, finishing with a tiny upswing. Let's review lowercase k. Tall upswing, just below the top line, pull back to form a narrow loop. Once you touch the baseline, retrace back up to the midpoint. Form a tiny clock face at the midpoint that touches the original line. Curve out to finish with a tiny upswing at the baseline. Great job. We have formed A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. Tomorrow, we will form the other capital letters, and then we'll move on to practicing your name or sight words. I recommend mastering writing your name in cursive, both your first and last name. That's what we call your signature. Great work.